So Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
Wonderful to see you and for me to be back here at B'nai Yeshurun. So much has transpired since the last time we were together, and the story is very fraught. But and that's just the world, let alone our Torah portions. So today we will is our parsha is Vayigash, and my plan is for us to begin at the beginning of our Torah portion with Judah's big reconciliation speech, right? That will bring on the reconciliation with Joseph, to examine that a little bit, to take it until they are, spoiler alert, until the brothers are reunited, and then they make their way back to Jacob, and Jacob begins to make his way back to Egypt and to see his son Joseph. And we'll stop at that point to explore some other things which will be on the handout, which I'll pass out so we'll all have a chance to look at it. So before we begin, we engage with words of Torah, and so the blessing for that is Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe. You have made us holy with your sacred obligations and have enjoined upon us to engage with words of Torah. So our portion, it begins in the Eitz Chaim on page 274, Vayigash. It is in the book of Genesis, chapter 44, verse 18. And would you like to start us off? Sorry, before we even start, okay, I know you're going to ask in Hebrew or in English, right? Okay, so before we even start, here we have Judah speaking to Joseph, leading to Joseph not to take their youngest brother Benjamin as his slave, but that Judah should go in his place. And a question that rises is, where does Judah get this energy? Where does Judah get this resolve to make this happen? So let's think about that for a second. Where is Judah getting this energy? Where is he getting this resolve?
Yeah, it may be that already at that point, he discovered his leadership quality.
Mm-hmm.
He felt that, he can be a spokesman, he can be a leader.
So he's become a spokesman basically for his brothers, right? And certainly for himself, for his brother Benjamin. And where is he getting this from?
I think part of it comes from guilt.
From guilt, okay. And guilt for what?
For the Joseph story.
And what was his role in the Joseph story?
Well, he's the one that's, let's see, which one said put him in the pit? No, he's the one that said sell him.
He's the one that said sell him.
Right.
Why should we kill him? Let's sell him.
Somebody else
We'll make something from it, from the deal. Okay. It's interesting to think about what was his impetus for saying that. Did he perhaps really not want to kill Joseph?
No.
Possibly. We don't know that. But he certainly says, let's do something and, get him far, far away from us. So he has a hand, he's complicit though, in Joseph's sale, at least, right? And there's something else that and when they bring the Joseph's tunic to their father Jacob, and say, this is what we found. What does Jacob say? What is his reaction? He sees this tunic, it's in shreds. This is the gift that he gave to his son, his favorite son, Joseph. It's in shreds and is covered with blood. What does Jacob say?
Does he assume he's dead?
He assumes he's dead, right? He feels that he has lost his beloved son. He has lost a son. let's go back to Judah. What happens to Judah that might connect him to that experience?
He lost two sons.
He loses two sons. Doesn't he? Let's turn to chapter 38 in Genesis. And it's on 233, chapter 38. About that time, Judah left his brothers and camped near a certain Dulamite whose name was Hira. There Judah saw the daughter of a certain Canaanite whose name was Shua. He married her and cohabited with her. She conceived and bore a son, and he named him Er. She conceived again and bore a son, and named him Onan. Once again bore a son, and named him Shelah. He was at Chazib when she bore him. Judah got a wife for Er, his firstborn. Her name was Tamar. But Er, Judah's firstborn, was displeasing to the Lord, and the Lord took his life. We don't know. Certainly, there are different midrashim as to why Er was displeasing, right?
Mhm.
And then when Onan was displeased,
And his name, heir, he was an heir.
right? Er was no longer the heir, right?
No, I didn't mean that.
Oh.
I meant ERROR.
Oh, error. Yes, right. Right. Then Judah said to Onan, join with your brother's wife and do your duty by her as a brother-in-law, provide offspring for your brother. And but Onan, knowing that the seed would not count as his, let it go to waste whenever he joined with his brother's wife, so as not to provide offspring for his brother. What he did was displeasing to the Lord, and God took his life also. So now Judah has lost two of his three sons. So he knows what it is like to lose his sons. And now he's standing next to Joseph, in front of Joseph. He's approaching Joseph, and he's going to recall what their father went through in losing his treasured son. And now, if he lost the second one, it would kill him. Right? It would kill him. So we're back on
Problem is
page
replacing-
274.
The problem is replacing Benjamin with Judah, he still loses a son. It's a different one.
Yes.
So the reasoning doesn't work.
But, well, the reasoning might not work, but I think that basically, if we go back to last week's portion, Judah tells his father, I will provide surety for him, in so many words, right?
Yeah, but that's a different reason for Judah.
What do you mean?
The reason is not losing a second son doesn't fit, but the fact that he said he would be his surety does.
Yes,
Okay, that's all I was trying to say.
all right. Okay, so Judah will lose, in a sense, two sons.
But
But
either way, it's two sons.
right,
And of course, he's already lost the second one because Shimon was held as a hostage. Well, when they went back the
yeah,
first time.
right.
So he'd
But he
already
hasn't really
lost two.
lost them. They're not,
Well, they're not
dead.
lost, yeah.
right? They're not dead. For the other sons, for Judah's sons, Judah knows that his sons have died, right? Okay. Right, okay. So back to 274, and let's begin. Open up with the Hebrew. That would be fine.
הגיע שלב ויאמר בי, אדוני ידבר נא עבדיך, דבר באוזני, אדוני ועל מיכר אפיך, לעבדך כי כמוך כי תראו. אדוני שאל את עבדיו לאמור, היש לכם אב או אח? ונאמר אל אדוני, יש לנו אח זקן, וילד זקנים קטן, ואחיו מת, ויוותר הוא לבדו לאמו ואביו. ואתה אומר אל עבדיך, הורידוהו אליי ואשימה עיני עליו. ונאמר אל אדוני, לא יוכל הנער לעזוב. ועזב את אביו מת. ואתה אומר אל עבדיך, אם לא ירד אחיכם הקטן איתכם, לא תוסיפו לראות די, ויהי כי עלינו אל עבדיך, אבי ונגד לו את דברי אדוני.
Thank you. Rabbi. So basically, would you like to read it in English too?
Clearly.
Okay, we'll go on.
Then Judah went up to him and said, Please, my lord, let your servant appeal to my lord. Do not be impatient with your servant, you who are the equal of Pharaoh. My lord asked his servants, Have you a father or another brother? He told my lord, We have an old father, and there is a child of his old age, the youngest. His full brother is dead, so that he alone is left of his mother.
So just for a second, excuse me, put your finger there because we'll come back. His old, and his, old brother is dead. His full brother is dead. How do you think Joseph is feeling upon hearing that? Not a rhetorical question. How do you think Joseph is? So we've got some people that are part of this scene, right? We have Judah, who is making his case on behalf of his youngest brother, coming with all his baggage and his memories and his experiences. And Joseph is listening to this. And how would he be feeling to be told that he's dead?
Devastated.
I'm sorry?
Devastated.
Devastated. Could you say a little bit more?
Well, he's to be in shock and I mean, somebody told you that it would feel like you're falling apart. I mean, it's heart-wrenching.
It could be very heart-wrenching. And we know that Joseph, God bless him, is kind of an emotional guy. So this could be putting on the scale of weighing him down emotionally. Okay, please
Yeah, but
continue.
he wouldn't be emotional if he was second to Pharaoh. He would have possibly lost some of his emotion, because you have to be, when he's telling the people, for example, about that they're not going to have that he's taking the land from them, 7 years of Pharaoh,
Yes, right.
famine and all. You got to be a pretty strong, unemotional person to do that and
That's
listen to the people.
so true, Sheila. So true. For in his political
I also
role,
think, like
right?
Mark Twain, he might say that the news of my death is exaggerated. He
Yes,
might be
thank you.
very amused by that.
That's a great line. That's
Yes.
a great line for that.
That's right. That's right. So in his political role, he could be he knows what he has to do, and his emotions he's not going to let his emotions get to him. Okay. But we have to take a step back and think, is he now in a political role, or is he's confronted by his brothers? Right. So now this goes to a different part of his psyche, so to speak. Yes.
Picking up from Nelson, our weekly yard site lists names of congregants, the same as congregants who are alive, like Harry Abraham, Vic Amster,
Oh, yeah.
are members of our congregation, but there are same names. So when they read the yard site list,
Yes.
It is eerie. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
And how could that, no matter who they are in real life, when they're confronted with that, it jolts a little bit, right? It jolts a little bit. Thank you. Verse 21. Yes.
I'm wondering if Joseph is also perhaps angered and perhaps a little bit unsure. One, because he's thinking, okay, the brothers have had to carry this lie the whole time with them.
Uh-huh.
Because if anything slips out, then they're in trouble. And two, I'm wondering if he thinks in their minds, because he was sold into slavery, perhaps you don't have a good way of survival when you're a slave. Maybe they really believe that after all these years, they don't do anything, they probably died in slavery anyway. So he's kind of conflated as to what the brothers might really think.
Sure. So does he, as you said, and tell me your name, please. Larry. So as Larry mentioned, the brothers sold him into slavery, but the shelf life of a slave does not necessarily have to be, very long, right? And I'm sorry to put that in such ridiculous terms, but the idea is for what they know, although they know they didn't kill him, he could be dead at this point in time. And he has risen to fame and glory in Egypt. Did he call? Did he write? Did he send a text, a postcard to let them know that he's okay? But there was no word from him, right? Do we know
If
even
it
that
was
his
true-
father Jacob, did he send a letter back to his father Isaac and mom to let them know that he was faring well? 20 years he was gone. 20 years, Joseph is gone. Yes,
I've often wondered that, especially when he rose to power. Imagine all the opportunities and things at his disposal that he certainly could have communicated,
sure,
especially to find out how his father was.
right.
And
I
I've
wonder if
always,
he
is there any literature about that?
There, it's whatever midrash there is, right?
Yeah, but, I mean, Jacob, on the other hand, there was communication between the two families. Because they always knew who had kids and what the ages were and everything else. Because why else would Leah think that she was gonna marry Esau if she didn't know about it?
Well,
There was
that's-
communication
But
back
that
then.
communication is midrash,
Well, yeah,
right?
but we know that there was
Okay.
communication.
Okay.
I mean, otherwise, how would they even have known where to go?
So true. But they sent him off Jacob is sent off by his parents,
And
right?
the other point I wanted to make is even if Joseph wasn't dead, in those days, you send him off, you send a kid off like that. Kid,
Yes,
he was 17. You send a kid off like that as a slave. You don't expect to hear from him. And to the father, whether he was dead or not, was the same thing. He was gone.
was gone. That's very true. That's very true. I'm sorry,
Ivan.
Arthur?
Ivan.
Ivan, sorry, Ivan.
Well, I think the brothers and certainly the father, Jacob, believe that Joseph is dead. I mean, as we go back to the scene of the pit, they were eating lunch and they had intended to pull him out and sell him as a slave. But the Midianites got to him first, pulled him out, and then sold him to the Ishmaelites, who then brought him down into Egypt and sold him as a slave. So they actually they all think that he's dead. And later on in this very narrative that we're reading, it'll be confirmed by Jacob, who says, you were torn to pieces. Judah's telling Jacob later on that Jacob is telling Judah that he was torn to pieces by a wild beast.
Right, because of seeing his coat, right?
They think he is dead.
Yes,
Otherwise, the narrative does not hold together.
it doesn't work. Exactly right. Thank you.
Right. That's key to keep in mind.
Very good. Thank you. Verse 21. Let's continue. Okay, thank you.
Then you said to your servants, bring him down to me, that I may set eyes on him. We said to my Lord, boy cannot leave his father. If he were to leave him, his father would die. But you said to your servants, unless your youngest brother comes down with you, do not let me see your faces. When we came back to your servant, my father, we reported my Lord's words to him.
Great. Okay, so let's continue.
Later, our father said, go back and procure some food for us. We answered, we cannot go down only if our youngest brother is with us. Can we go down? For we may not show our faces to the man unless our youngest brother is with us. Your servant, my father, said to us, as you know, my wife bore me 2 sons, but one is gone from me. And I said, alas, he was torn by a beast. and I have not seen him since. If you take this one from me too, and he meets with disaster, you will send my white head down to the Sheol in sorrow.
Great, thank you. And 20 years later, and Jacob continues to remember his interpretation of seeing the coat shredded and covered with blood. That his son was torn by a beast. And he carries that with him. Verse 30.
Elliot, do you want to read?
Number
We're on verse 30, right here.
30.
Yeah.
30. Now, if I come to your servant, my father, and the boy is not with us, since his own life is so bound up with his, when he sees that the boy is not with us, he will die, and your servants will send the white head of your servant, our father, down to Sheol in grief. Now your servant has pledged himself for the boy to my father, saying, if I do not bring him back to you, I shall stand guilty before my father forever. Therefore, please let your servant remain as a slave to my lord instead of the boy, and let the boy go back with his brothers. For how can I go back to my father unless the boy is with me? Let me not be witness to the woe that would overtake my father.
If you notice, there is a little comment below the line for chapter 44 with regards to how many times Judah uses the word father. Father, 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 14 times. 14 times. 14 is not a usual number, it doesn't hold anything special, Torahitically, unless you think about 7 doubled.
Right.
And we know that when a word is doubled in Torah, there's emphasis there. So one could say that these 14 times, these 14 uses, 7 plus 7, he's emphasizing his father. Chipping away at Joseph's political outside veneer, chipping away 14 times. He doesn't necessarily realize this, but something tells us that Joseph does. So let's continue.
Wait,
Yes, sorry,
he refers to him as a boy, but he's a grown man at this time.
Benjamin.
Yeah.
Yes. Sadly, we don't know the ages, right? But he is the youngest, but he left, if Joseph left, and he still had a younger brother when he left, and that was 20 years ago. So he's got to be in his mid-20s by now,
He had
right?
10 children by now, 10 sons?
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Didn't he have
Didn't he have 10 sons?
sons by now?
He's considered the boy, probably because of his youngest status. In his father's eyes, as for those of us who have grown adult children, that youngest is still our baby, right? That's the way it works,
I still refer to my youngest sister as my baby sister,
right?
and she's taller than me.
Elliot?
You have a reference here to Sheol, which is hell.
Sheol is this dark in-between place. We don't know exactly. There's nothing in Torah that explains what Sheol is. So it comes to be understood as a place where the dead go. Why? Because it's down into the ground. And why would that be the case? Because when people die, they're buried. It's, the idea is that they go down.
Korach went down. Is there any other examples in the Torah where this is referred to?
Sheol. It's possible in the book of Samuel, but other than that, I'm not sure. But that would be a great thing to do a word search. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks. Okay, chapter 45.
Joseph could no longer control himself before all his attendants, and he cried out, have everyone withdrawn from me? So there was no one else about when Joseph made himself known to his brothers. His sobs were so loud that the Egyptians could hear, and so the news reached Pharaoh's palace.
And please, I'm pressing the pause buttons. Why would it be important for Joseph to send everybody out except for the brothers? Why do you think,
Yeah,
Ivan?
Joseph cannot afford for him to be recognized, although they know he's a Hebrew. Most of them know he's a Hebrew.
Uh-huh.
He can't afford to have his true identity to be known again. Okay, he's weeping, and so Judah has unlocked, has tapped his inner feelings for his family now, for his brother and his father. He's made him feel completely guilty for tormenting them, and especially tormenting Jacob about all of this. But also, he is the premier, he is the viceroy, right? And so he can't afford to be seen as something other than an Egyptian, someone weak, someone that is part of a different clan, a different tribe. He's second in charge to Pharaoh. And it's critical that for him, in order for him to retain his power and authority, that he not be seen weeping.
Great, thank you. And that builds upon what Sheila had said, because his outside persona, right, of the strong, unemotional leader needs to stay an outside persona. So by taking away moving everyone else and having this family reunion in private, he can show his inner emotion. Sheila? And then.
But he can show his inner emotion, but I think he really is curious at this point. He wants to hear what really happened. And he can't do it in front of other people.
Right.
Yes, as Ivan says, he has to keep his inner persona, but deep down, okay, so what happened, guys? What
happened? Right. Yeah. What did you actually do?
Well, now let's have the truth of how my father is and what's going on.
Right.
And he could not do that in front of other people.
And it's also politically, he needs to be cautious so that the truth about his brothers and what they did to him doesn't come out. There might be something to not sharing that particular story. Yes, and then the person who's on the upper.
Okay, I didn't. I was thinking that since Pharaoh was considered a god, and he was second to Pharaoh, he couldn't be human. He needed to be above humanity also. So he couldn't have a family like that.
Sure, but then he'll certainly be accepted in terms of having one for sure. And this gentleman in the upper.
Yeah,
Nelson.
I have an entirely different take of it.
Okay.
He can't let the Egyptians know that he cares about these people, that they're his brothers. If he's got enemies, they can strike. They can't strike him, but they could strike his brothers. And also the other side of it, if you can't bribe the ruler, that's treason, but you can bribe his family. We see that in the current generation, but we see that also in the Romans saying Caesar's wife has to be above reproach. You can't bribe her either.
Okay.
So you can't. Yeah, he can't tell people that he might be reached through these other people.
Sure. Somehow they will know, though, right? But he needs to be seen above reproach, so to say. Yes.
I want to mention something in verse 3 that Joseph asks as a question: is my father still alive? In Hebrew, Od Avichai, that has become a major, very strong expression in Judaic literature, something synonymous to Am Yisrael Chai, a different version. Od Avichai is from what I know, is a major concept
Sure,
in
sure.
in Judaism.
Oh, Davinu Chai, right? Right,
Yeah.
which is part of Am Yisrael Chai,
Yeah,
Right.
instead of a question, has become a concept.
right? Excellent, excellent. And that's where we had stopped, so we're gonna continue there almost. But it's interesting to say, is my father still well? But the Hebrew doesn't say that. The Hebrew says, is my father still living? Right, right, which is slightly different in the
Right,
translation.
right.
That helps every once in a
I
while.
did not care for the JP's translation.
Okay, yes.
We also have to take into account that Joseph was not popular among the masses because in order for him to set up the stores for the lean years, he was tithing everybody and
Yes.
taking, the farmers had to hand in their grain. And so he was not greatly loved. So any chink in his armor would give cause for people to rebel.
Sure, that's, on the one hand, you would think that that's so true. Pardon me. And on the other hand, from the text, it sounds like people just do this without, we don't hear about the rumbling among the masses, right? But that's great to keep in mind as well. So Joseph, so let's continue. And I think you are, oh, no, we put a pause on you. Yes. Okay.
Okay. Joseph said to his brothers, I am Joseph. Is my father still well? But his brothers could not answer him, so dumbfounded were they on account of him.
Okay, thanks. And let's continue. Okay. The next person. Verse 4.
Then Joseph said to his brothers, come forward to me. And when they came forward, he said, I am your brother Joseph, he whom you sold into Egypt. Now do not be distressed or reproach yourselves because you sold me hither. It was to save life that God sent me ahead of you. It is now 2 years that there has been a famine in the land, and there are still 5 years to come in which there shall be no meal from tilling. God has sent me ahead of you to ensure your survival on earth and to save your lives in an extraordinary deliverance. So it was not you who sent me here, but God, and he has made me a father to Pharaoh, Lord of all his household and ruler over the whole land of Egypt.
Great, thank you. So he repeats at least 3 times that it was God who sent me here, that it's certainly possible that, and in the commentary at the bottom of one of these pages for chapter 45, this is what happened. Someone writes, it was to say the narrative here makes an important theological statement. God could not prevent the brothers from choosing to do something cruel. God's role was to sustain Joseph and guide him to bring something good and life-affirming out of the unfairness inflicted upon him. So that's a kind of a slightly different perspective of how to understand that. Almost like when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. But the idea is here that, and we get this, and I might take umbrage with that because it seems like this was supposed to happen. When you think about the different steps in the story, when Jacob sends Joseph to find out how his brothers are doing, right, in Shechem, and he goes off and he gets lost, and he comes to a man, he's wandering in a field, and he comes across this gentleman who says, you look lost, can I help you? And Joseph says, I'm looking for my brothers, have you seen them? How would this man know who he was? And yet he says, oh, they went that way. And he points him on his way. Something like, almost like an angel, right? One of God's messengers. If we can think about in our own lives, when you have felt lost, when you need to kind of direction as to which way to go, and you might have a conversation with someone that will set you on a particular path that is indeed for the good. This is Joseph's experience. And so he's able to find his brothers, who then sent him on to Egypt through the Midianite or Ishmaelite tradesmen, right? And the story continues that way. But Joseph understands this as I've been put here for a reason. I'm able to be helpful. Joseph understands this when he's in prison, right? When the baker and the wine cupbearer, the cupbearer tell him that they've had dreams. And we heard that you can understand our dreams. And Joseph, at that point in time, no longer the know-it-all teenager, says, it's not me that can do this, but God has given me this skill, right? And so he's made this connection with God. And he continues to see this in the text as we make our way through the story. And he shares this with his brother. Yes, and then yes.
So Joseph is telling his brothers, don't be ashamed that you did this to me. It was basically the hand of God that put you in the situation to do that thing to me. Because look at me now, what I've become, and I was able to save you from famine, and also now to save you from this other thing.
Right.
And it's almost like the story of Purim, where Mordecai says to Esther, oh, you're afraid that you might go to the king and he would kill you because you didn't have permission. Who knows if you were not chosen for this thing? It is really, to me, something similar.
Nice connection. Nice connection. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
I was looking at verse 7. I don't remember noticing this before, but it says, save your lives in extraordinary deliverance.
Right.
I'm wondering, is he talking about the famine or is he talking about the eventual Exodus?
Good question.
Thank you.
Right? Good question, because yes, yeah. It seems to point to the future, right? It seems to point to the future. Okay.
Ivan.
Ivan. Oh, we can't hear you. Please unmute.
Demute yourself.
I think we all have to wonder if it wasn't for Judah and his leadership with the brothers, if it wasn't for this incredibly brilliant speech that he uses to break Joseph down, to make him see who he really is, whether Joseph would have relented. Isn't it a fair question to ask? I mean, all of this time he's playing with the brothers. He's manipulating them. Maybe you can say he's testing them. And maybe that's what the Torah wants us to think. But still, he's tormenting his father. And if it wasn't for Judah, would he actually be doing this now? It seems just too convenient almost for him to use divine providence now as a reason for him that you know, it was meant to be, that he was there to save the family. And of course, as someone else said, he enables Pharaoh to take all the land and the food from the nobility and everyone else, and to help Pharaoh consolidate his power, right? And in the end, the Israelites become slaves for 400 years.
Right.
So is Joseph really the the providential agent that we think he is, or is this not really what the Torah is telling us?
Well, it's a good question, but I think if you step back and see Joseph as a bridge from the three patriarchs to getting us to Egypt, where this, what's it called? The extraordinary deliverance is going to come. It has to happen. It has to happen because Abraham is told about this by God many, many chapters ago. So from the Torah's perspective, it's all part of this plan, this story that is going, this experience of a people, of families, of tribes that will become a people, and it's going to happen in a certain way.
Yes,
Okay?
but nevertheless, let me just conclude. I think we have to accept that Judah is really the true leader. Here we have,
Yes.
in this speech, in all of this narrative, we have a chance to compare Judah and Joseph. And we see that Judah is, as a result of what happens with Tamar, has become a true leader, a truly righteous person, someone that is able to show Joseph that Jacob is the father of all 12 sons, not just the sons of Rachel and the sons of Leah, that they're unified as one. He comes before them as Judah and his brothers.
Correct. And I definitely agree with you. And when we think about who King David will descend from, it will be Judah, right? And the kings of Israel will descend from Judah, because when Judah and Tamar cohabitate, the son is named Peretz, who because like the great grandfather of Boaz, right? Who then, et cetera. So yes, Judah, it's the tribe. Judah is the spokesperson, is the leader. Jacob, when we hear from him, and now the boys will make their, we have the reunion. I'm moving things along because I want to get to Jacob and his return back. So the reunion happens. They receive all sorts of gifts, parting gifts and promises. Come back with your father. And they, at the beginning of chapter 46, so Israel set out with all that was his, and he came to Beersheba, where he offered sacrifices to the God of his father Isaac. So let me pass these out. Thank you. Take one and pass them around, please.
I find it remarkable that Joseph has retained the aspects of his religion, given the fact that he's grown up in the Egyptian household.
Yes.
And the fact that he still believes in the God of the Hebrews.
Yes, it's the rabbis marvel at that also. And to this day, Joseph gives his sons Hebrew names. And the midrash is that, in the land of Egypt, they could have gotten all sorts of Egyptian names. These are Hebrew names. They kept their Hebrew, he gave his Hebrew identity to his children. And to this day, when we bless our children on Erev Shabbat, right? We say that for our sons, may you be like Ephraim and Manasseh, right? Yes. On his right, we need
On that point, though, Joseph kept his religion. Jacob did too of the 20 years he was away.
Yes, he did. And now we're going to find out about that. Okay. So Jacob has this amazing relationship with God. And before he leaves, as he's leaving on his trip down to Egypt, he's leaving the land, right? He's leaving the land, and he stops at Beersheba and he offers sacrifices. He offers offerings. And he, When Jacob leaves Beersheba and sets out for Haran, which is on the way down to Egypt, he begins his long journey, both physically and spiritually, from his home and family. Shortly after he leaves home, God appears to Jacob in a dream, along with angels and a ladder connecting heaven and earth. So basically, what I want to take you on are Jacob's trips that he has made, okay? And the different experiences that he has. And we're going to do this in less than 15 minutes, okay? What could be Jacob's concerns and how are they addressed by God? So from chapter 28, 11 through 15, he came upon a certain place and stopped there for the night, for the sun had set. Taking one of the stones of that place, he put it under his head and lay down in that place. Jacob had a dream. A stairway was set on the ground and its top reached to the sky, and messengers of God were going up and down on it. And standing beside him was Adonai, who said, I am Adonai, the God of your father Abraham's house and the God of Isaac's house. The ground on which you are lying, I will assign to you and to your offspring. Your descendants shall be as dust of the earth. You shall spread out to the west and to the east, to the north and to the south. All the families of the earth shall bless themselves by you and your descendants. Remember, I am with you. I will protect you wherever you go and will bring you back to this land. I will not leave you until I have done what I have promised to you. Why are the angels going up and down on the ladder? According to the Midrash, according to rabbinic understanding, the angels, we are protected by angels in certain places. And when you come to the border of a place, those angels leave and new ones come. So the angels are going up. Those were the angels that were protecting Jacob in this part of the land. And as he's crossing the border to Haran, the new set of angels are coming down. And along with them is God, who is basically giving Jacob, who is, remember, he's on the run from his brother Esau, who has sworn to kill him. And his family, his parents have sent him far, far away, wife, quote unquote, right? Basically to protect him. But who is really going to protect him? And what must he be thinking about at this point? Yes?
God.
And God, right? God is there. He has this relationship with God who is going to be protecting him. He awoke from his dream, his sleep, and said, surely Adonai is present in this place, and I did not know it. Shaken, he said, how awesome is this place? Ma no ra hamakom hazeh. And you know, in one of the names of God is Hamakom, right? The place. Wherever we find ourselves, we are in a place. And that can be the place of God as well. He does not say there, that's just me. This is none other than the abode of God, and that is the gateway to heaven. Early in the morning, Jacob took the stone that he had put under his head and set it up as a pillar and poured oil on the top of it. He named that site Bethel, Beit El, the house of God, but previously the name of the city had been Bus, which is also another name for light. Jacob made a vow saying, if God remains with me, protecting me on this journey that I am making and giving me bread to eat and clothing to wear, and I return safe to my father's house, Adonai shall be my God. And this stone which I have set up as a pillar shall be God's abode, and all of you and all that you have given me, what God has given me, I will set aside a tithe for you. So basically, you do this for me and you will be my God. Jacob has always been a kind of heel at some point. And I say that with a smile on my face because Ekev means heel and Yaakov is his name. So he was named heel because he was drawn out right by his heel when he was born. And sometimes we call him a heel because of his behavior. But in this case, he has this connection with God, and God has certainly made him God's self present to him. Then he serves his father-in-law Laban for 20 years, and it's time for him to return home. Early in the morning, Laban kissed his sons and daughters and bade them goodbye, and then Laban left on his journey homeward. Jacob went on his way, and messengers of God encountered him. When he saw them, Jacob said, this is God's camp. And so he named that place Machanaim. Messengers of God are another another word for angels, right? Okay, so messengers or angels of God encountered him, according to Midrash. Jacob recognizes them. When had he seen them before, and what was their purpose now? Rashi teaches that these are the angels who minister in the land of Israel and came to meet him in order to escort him into the Holy Land. So basically, when he left, there were angels going up, right, and coming down. And now there are angels meeting him here as he makes his way back into the Holy Land. And it's the next shift. How many angels are there? God bless our rabbis. In Bereshit Rabbah, we read, Jacob went on his way, okay? He calls it Machanayim, okay? Jacob went on his way and the angels of God encountered him. How many angels were dancing and prancing before our patriarch Jacob upon his entry into the land? Rav Huda said in the name of Rabbi Avihu, probably 600,000 angels were dancing before Jacob, our patriarch, upon his entry into the land. That was what is written. Jacob said when he saw them, this is the camp Machaneh of God. And the divine presence does not rest on fewer than 600. The rabbis say, no, it was 1,200,000 because he called the name of the place Machanayim, which basically doubles, right? 2 camps. Machaneh is 600,000 and Machanayim is 1,200,000. And I can just imagine, if you will, this image, right,
These
of
are
1,200,000.
These are the same rabbis that wrote God, right?
Right, dancing and prancing. I mean, jingling there, that's the Jacob. No, that's a different thing. Okay. Jacob continues on his way, number 3, and hears from his messengers that we came to your brother Esau. He himself is coming to meet you, and his retinue numbers 400. So these aren't angels right now, but these are Esau and his men. So as concerned and scared, frightened that Jacob was as he left to go to Haran, now that he's coming back home, he hears that 400 men and his brother are out to get him. So he understands. Jacob was greatly frightened, and in his anxiety, he divided the people with him and the flocks and the herds and the camels into 2 camps, thinking, if Esau comes to one camp and attacks it, the other camp may yet escape. It appears that Jacob recalls the angels he encountered as he left his father-in-law's. If there were angels, could God be present also? And then Jacob says, O God of my father Abraham's house and of God of my father's Isaac's house. O Adonai, who said to me, return to your native land and I will deal bountifully with you. I am unworthy of all the kindness that you have so steadfastly shown your servant. With my staff alone, I crossed this Jordan, and now I have become 2 camps. Deliver me, I pray, from the hand of my brother, from the hand of Esau, else I fear he may come to strike me down, mothers and children alike. Yet you have said, I will deal bountifully with you and make your offspring as the sands of the sea, which are too numerous to count. God, you have told me I will survive and you will protect me. Please protect me at this point. And this is when Jacob wrestles with the angel, right? After taking them across the stream, he sent across all his possessions. Jacob was left alone, and a figure wrestled with him until the break of dawn. When he saw that he had not prevailed against him, he wrenched Jacob's hip at its socket so that the socket of his hip was strained as he wrestled with him. He won't let him go until he tells him his name. The angel doesn't tell him his name, but he gives Jacob a new name, which is Yisrael, which means your name shall no longer be Jacob, for you have striven with beings divine and human and have prevailed. And the Jacob's other part takes his leave. So Jacob named the place Peniel, meaning I have seen a divine being face to face, yet my life has been preserved. Then Jacob amazes us when he reunites with Esau. So now the next day, right? And Jacob comes towards his brother Esau. And what does he say? Just go down to the bottom of this little 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines. Jacob says, no, I pray you, if you would do me this favor and accept from me this gift, for to see your face is like seeing the face of God. But Tirtzeni, and you have received me favorably. What a remarkable comment. Jacob compares greeting his brother with theophany itself. What could he be saying? Jacob compares Esau not only by saying that seeing one is like seeing the other, which is a reminder that even an Esau is made in the image of God, but he also demonstrates that one serves them on the same way. Basically, what the next section is doing is giving the rabbinic insights and understanding of the Hebrew for Tirtzeni as you have brought offerings to me, right? Jacob sends gifts and more gifts and more gifts before he even gets to see him in person. And when we think about the sacrificial offerings, right, we to appease God, we send forth gifts and offerings. And that's the connection that they're making. And that's the connection that Jacob has made also by approaching at the bottom of the page, by approaching another person with reverence and warmth, like seeing the face of God, by showing openness to their concerns and their fears, presenting offerings before even exchanging words. Jacob models for us the opportunity to see each human as an embodiment of the godly and the mysterious. So all these points along the way, we think about when there are difficult transitions in our lives. Our Torah is telling us we are not alone. When we have interpersonal relations that are difficult, our Torah is telling us to take a step back, to wrestle with it, to know that we are not alone, and to see the face of God in the other person. And let's face it, we know how trying and how difficult that can be, but we still are invited to make that effort. Jacob set out for Hebrew number 5 sets out for Egypt to be reunited with his son Joseph. And here again, he makes his offerings as we just read in our Torah portion to God, and God says, I will be with you. You're leaving now, but I will make sure that you are brought back, and your son Joseph will close your eyes when you die. And as a precursor to next week's Torah portion, which is called Vayechi, and he lived, and Jacob lived, right? Like Chaye Sarah, the life of Sarah. And now this begins with, and basically the life of Jacob. And Jacob lived so many years, and he comes to the end of his life. And what happens? Joseph brings his sons, and Jacob blesses them. And then Jacob makes Joseph promise to bring him and bury him, Jacob, with his wives and with his parents and with his grandparents in the cave of Machpelah. And Joseph says, okay, Dad, yes, I will do this. And then we have this line that says, and Jacob bowed to, Yisrael bowed down upon the head of the bed. So what does that mean? Is he bowing to Joseph, which is possible, but the rabbis have come to interpret this as Jacob bowing to the presence of God. And as it says here, Rashi teaches us, as Rav Hanan said, that Rav said, from where is it derived that the divine presence cares for and aids the sick person? As it is stated, God will support him on the bed of illness. The Gemara comments, that was also taught in a Braita. One who enters to visit the sick person should sit neither on the bed nor on a chair. Rather, he should wrap himself in his prayer shawl with trepidation and awe and sit before the sick person below him, as the divine presence is above the head of the sick person. As it is stated, God will support him on the bed of illness. He must treat the divine presence with deference. So Rashi's Midrash is based on statements found in the Talmud, and it's easy to see how this teaching would bring strength and comfort to the sick or dying. It can be a beautiful image, imagining the presence of God hovering, as it were, over someone who is suffering. God's presence should only be with each and every one of us as we make our way through both the difficult and the wonderful transitions of our lives. Shabbat Shalom.